Yeah. I know.
It's like, it looks exactly like that spot on my camera. Then she looked at something, come to.
Yeah.
The darn thing.
Yeah, the baseball. Yeah.
Cross that fence, but.
To get over there.
I'm watching
That's $5 to come to this meeting.
You got your attendance.
Yeah, yeah.
I saw that. Mayor.
I never remember. It says that.
You know, it's just.
Oh, it does.
Mr. Williams, you get a little taste of it, on yet?
I just kind of go.
So now, not a picture.
Something else.
Oh, yeah. Well, I think it's either 10.
I gotta make comments.
No, the, for this.
Yeah, you just say that. I have no. I don't think.
Don't give me that. Right, you know, everything will be.
I need it.
Oh, not only, you know. Whatever, so that you love on. There you go.
Appreciate it.
Yes, sir. Anytime.
Actually. Yeah. Okay, listen up, guys, 6:30. Call to order the London City Council meeting for May 12th, 2025. Roll call, please.
Belkey,
There.
Bennett,
Here.
Cornish,
Here.
Farrell,
Here.
Marcinkowski,
Here.
Smith,
Here.
Stevenson,
Here.
Washington.
Here. Please join me in the pledge of allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
And before I ask for an approval on the omnibus agenda, I have to amend the agenda. Under. On the second page, under mayor, it says discuss, approve the resolution authorizing the execution of IDOT utility permit application for Creekside upon signature of Dennis Faust and Chad Lidikin. You have to remove Dennis Faust and Chad Lidikin and replace that with authorized representatives.
Okay. I will move the omnibus agenda with those corrections to the agenda.
Second. You ready?
Yep.
Okay, roll call please.
Bennett,
Yes.
Cornish,
Yes.
Farrell,
Yes.
Marcinkowski,
Yes.
Smith,
Yes.
Stevenson.
Yeah.
Washington,
Yes.
Belkey.
Yes.
Okay, and this is me, I got. Request a motion to approve the resolution approving fee agreement with Bruckert, Beam and Long PC City Attorney for the city of Lebanon. And directing and authorizing the mayor to execute said fee agreement. Need a motion.
I make a motion.
Second. Any discussion? A roll call, please.
Cornish,
Yes.
Farrell,
No.
Marcinkowski,
Yes.
Smith,
Yes.
Stevenson,
Yeah.
Washington,
Yeah.
Belkey.
Yes.
Bennett.
Yes.
Okay, that carries, okay. Now we'll run into the audience. Anybody have anything to say out there? Okay. Oh, Sean.
I do. Can I go first?
Yeah, state your name.
I'm Shane.
Yeah, 5 minutes.
Thank you. Just have a couple of questions regarding like the, let's say mini bikes, the mopeds, the 49cc and below. Mopeds, scooters, e-bikes with the conversion of what rate maximum speeds are allowed in town for the kids that are riding them is, by reading through the ordinance, it was saying that, it could be considered as a toy for the sidewalk, being that they're toys for kids. A couple of the officers have said that if they were riding them on the sidewalk and not out in the streets, acting silly or foolish, they could ride them around. I just don't want my son to get in trouble and or purchase what, he can ride. Because the internal combustion engines of some of these, you know, they are loud. People have called in and complained, with the exhaust versus an e-bike when they pass your house doing 45 miles per hour. And some of them can do that very easily. You don't hear a thing. You don't actually think to look outside. And some of them are faster than what his bike is and some of his friends. So I was just kind of looking for, you know, a solutionable answer for that, I guess, from either the chief, mayor. I know Mr. George has all the ordinances memorized, so I tried personally digging him up today and couldn't come up with what really looked right other than the toy section, because when you go to Amazon, you can order an electric one identically sized, it says for kids. And you also have the section for adults, but some of those will do 30, 40 miles an hour, just right out of the box, plug it in the wall and take off. So it's like, will they need headlights, reflectors to go along with, let's say, similarities to the golf cart rule where we have to have lights, but some of them don't come with batteries as far as the internal combustion engine one goes. I'm not kind of off the wall and confused here about how I'm saying it maybe, but I guess you guys can kind of read what I'm getting at, hopefully. That's pretty much all I have to say, other than I hope something works out for the Creekside team. I see they're here tonight.
Thanks, Shane.
Thank you.
Anybody else? We don't want to call on you because we don't know. Okay.
I mean, it wouldn't be a meeting at this point if I didn't say something, I feel like, so, I just want to introduce myself to Mr. Beam over there, and I'm just gonna call you Mr. M, because I don't want to mess it up, Mr. Smith, so, I'm Bethany, I'm one of the owners of Creekside, and my sisters are with me and some friends, but I don't have that longish spiel tonight for you guys, just, little something just to kind of fill in people that haven't been here. It's been 199 days today since we contacted the city for sewer. I was actually working over at the building tonight after my full-time job and dropping off dinner to all our guys who've already worked 10 to 12 hours today to come straight back to Lebanon to work on this building that if we don't get sewer, we'll never even open. So we're all spending every free minute that we have, working 2 jobs right now. We spend every free second that we have there and that we bought last October. And I was almost late to the meeting tonight because I had to run home to use the restroom before heading up here I can't even imagine how many times now because I cannot use the restrooms in our building still since October. So that kind of stinks when you have contractors up there that need to use the restroom. It's like, oh, sorry, you gotta go to Casey's or, go home or, whatever. That's not great. News Channel 4 has reached out to us amongst many other big media sources in St. Louis and local. They wanted to come out last week. They wanted to come with me tonight. I don't want to do that. I don't think anybody wants that again up here. We saw what happened with the cemetery. It was a mess. I'm just hopeful that I know there's, I think, an official agreement here finally tonight of phase 1, we're gonna call it, because I think there's a little more for us to work together on still, but I would love for myself and for Lebanon to report some good news to some of these news outlets tonight. I would like to finally see something positive in Lebanon, and I like y'all, but I'm really tired of coming up here, so I hope we can all get this done tonight and not have, people screaming and cussing, leaving city council meeting tonight. And, let's all work together here to make this nice. I know Ms. Cornish came down and visited. Mr. Belkey has, Mr. Smith, even, he doesn't have any clue what's going on and he reached out to me this week. So, he's trying to get involved already. Let's do this tonight, all right? Let's do this tonight. Let's get this accomplished, all right? Mr. Farrell's reached out, so I appreciate it. Appreciate everyone working together and look forward to working with Mr. Dean here. So it's gotta be better than the last guy. So thank you for your time.
Anyone else out there? Nobody? Okay.
Oh, sorry.
Sure.
I'm just, and I don't know if I'm doing this the right time or not. My name's Chris Andrews. I live at 214 North Herman. And I just kind of wanted to come and speak on the reissuance of a special use permit for 218 North Herman Street. Would be for agricultural special use. This is Amy's my neighbor, been my neighbor since 2021. And if I'm off topic here, just let me know. I don't know if it's my time.
Let's just hang on because that's under the plan commission.
Okay.
I think Brent's gonna get it.
All right, I just wanted to make sure.
Brent, you gotta mention that.
Yeah, well,
I was not able to be at the planning commission on May 1st, so I'd like to just,
Okay.
yeah.
Is this over building height?
No, this is not. This is over special use permit of agricultural for
Yeah,
residential.
we'll go, I've got a report or a
Okay.
recommendation.
Okay, so I,
approve.
okay, so I'm good.
Yeah, I think.
I was just gonna say that I'm for it.
You take your 5 minutes.
Okay,
Whatever you wanna
listen,
say.
so 218 North Herman is on pretty much the most northeast corner of the city of Lebanon. She's had used it for agricultural before and due to some health issues that lapsed back in 2023. I'm like her next door neighbor. I'm the one who would be most affected by any type of agricultural use of that property. And I have no issue with it at all. So whenever you guys take up your vote, and I know the planning commission will probably be okay with it. The back half of her property is zoned residential for whatever reason, but that is a flood zone. To be honest with you, if that were to ever be developed, it would have to be on stilts, or you would have to bring in a buttload of dirt to let it settle, and then you can build on it, because every time it rains, that creek rises right behind her property and it floods. So, I think we should allow her to get use out of her property in a way that she can, even though it's zoned residential, and let her use it the way that she needs. That's all I came here to say tonight. So thank you for your time.
What's your name?
My name is,
You didn't mention
Yes,
Yeah.
You mentioned-
Yes, you did.
it. I didn't-
yeah, Mr. Farrell, my name's Chris Andrews. I
Okay,
live at
Chris.
214 North Herman, right next to the 218.
I missed your name.
It's okay. It's all right.
Just want to make sure it was on record.
Yes, sir, I got you. Thank you.
Thanks, Chris.
I appreciate it.
Anybody else? No one? Older persons have anything?
Yes,
Yeah.
I do. I'm
Okay,
going to
George.
answer a couple of questions for
Okay,
Mr. Thacker. With the e-bikes, they are controlled by state statute. There's a limitation on the speed and the power, et cetera. So if somebody is buying one in here in town that could go 40 miles an hour, well, they're 15 miles an hour over the state limit for e-bikes. There is a bill in the state legislature that's working its way through that is going to redefine bicycles to include e-bikes, well, e-bikes old statute, but to include tricycles, because the way the statute is written right now, only two-wheel bikes. But that is state statute, so our officers can enforce state statute if the e-bikes, the scooters and all that are violating that part of the law. Does that
Chief,
help you?
Chief, on that aspect right there, so are these kids, I mean, I'd rather have a kid ripping up and down the road here. By playing 10 hours of Call of Duty and Fortnite, whatever the heck they play, I'd rather have a kid do that all day. So, Chief, can you tell all of us and the good citizens here on this owl thing? Are the kids allowed to be on the street, or are they allowed to be on the sidewalk, or are they not allowed at all? Let's just get the.
That's part of the ordinance we have.
Well, yeah,
No, they're not allowed, or they are allowed?
they are allowed.
On the street.
Well, the officer came to Shane's house and told him that he's not allowed. We had an officer come to Mr. Shane's house yesterday saying they're not allowed on the streets.
I can second that. I
So
have a,
which one is
we
it?
have a 49cc bike. It's a moped, and my daughter was driving it, and he said that she's not allowed to ride. She had to have a driver's license.
Right.
I'm like, what?
You don't need a motorcycle license for 49 and less.
Do you, but the ordinance, can you pull that up?
Yes, sir.
And then,
Yeah, well,
I don't remember the ordinance.
I just don't want Mr. Thacker to have to wait a month to get an answer. We can do this right now.
The sidewalks are tricky.
I couldn't find anything in there myself, I was looking, because like, where the resource officer is, he told one, he was, you guys sit on the sidewalk over that city, it's a big deal. But like coming out of our streets on the first one, we don't have a sidewalk, we're down, so that is.
they're all in the state.
hey, Chief,
All right, here we go.
Jordan's gonna read it here.
I'm not gonna read it, I couldn't get it up fast enough.
Okay,
But the mopeds, et cetera, are under state statute. They are a motorized bike. That's under a different definition. And it is possible that you would need a driver's license or a license for a motorized bicycle. If it has a certain horsepower.
Shane, is what you're.
But what I'm saying,
You
you
could.
could,
They can get on the scooter and run.
Yeah, it's like this.
oh, the kick scooters are just as quick. No, I'm talking about a full mini bike,
Oh, yeah.
not a motocross.
Yeah, they can't be riding on the.
No,
But they can ride on the sidewalk if they're under a certain CC.
they should be allowed to ride property.
So you can buy them off Amazon for $250 or 39 cc. And it says toy just for kids type of thing. And your ordinance states if it's a toy, sled, I mean, there's some
That's why I'm
other
asking
things.
you.
Yeah, that's why I just
The
don't-
definition by Amazon is not gonna cut it in court because they're trying to sell them. They're selling them because they're selling them because kids want them.
But you gotta tell them what is it.
Yeah.
I gotta find the, it takes me a little bit to find.
Because the 49 cc moped is a regular one with the headlight, tail lights. What is, I mean.
Is that loud or not loud?
Electric scooters that was 25 miles an hour.
I think we should discuss.
I think they put this on.
yeah.
She's got the 49 cc.
Hey, Shane, I think we're gonna move on with the stuff. George will pull it up and get with you later. Is that okay?
Whatever you guys do.
Okay,
I just don't want the kid to get his thing impounded for riding.
You just make sure he's legal, like, we don't want him in trouble.
okay. Any other older person?
Oh, sure, I'm not done. So, question now, the official offer for Creekside, why did it take almost 3 weeks? Can you, Mr. New Lord, comment on why it took almost, I guess, 3 weeks for them to get an official offer? When did they officially get an offer? So my question is, when the previous mayor made a comment that a council meeting that they would have an official offer on Tuesday. That was 3 weeks ago, that we're 3 weeks now. When did they officially get their lawyer get the official offer from you, I take it, or whoever it is? Was it Friday? Was it today? 2 weeks ago? I think everybody wants to know, when was the official offer made to their lawyer, whether their lawyer gave it to them or not? When did we give it to them? And why does it take 3 weeks?
For clarification, offer of what?
All the stuff that we went into executive session for like 45 minutes for.
So part of that has not been fully sent to them because of other things we're going to discuss on the agenda item that's set today,
He's referring to the portion that was.
the financial.
Yeah.
Yeah, so, and I can take it up now, or I can take it up under the agenda item.
Can you wait this a little bit, John?
I guess we'll take it up in the agenda. I'm dumbfounded. Sorry it takes this long, but that's all I got for now.
Anyone else? Linda, hang on, Pat. Linda?
Yeah, I talked to Pastor Kim at the Methodist Church about, using their church for disaster. And, that's something that they have been discussing too, but they didn't know who to contact. So she's gonna take it to their council and they will be back with me. And the same thing for, UCC. Pastor Josiah, he's gonna take it to, their council and they'll be getting back with me. I also contacted Charles Kelly about a meeting for MedStar for the contract and for the bathroom. And that will be held on May 20th at 4 p.m. Sean and I will attend that.
Okay. Is that all?
You rushing me?
No.
Oh, okay. No,
I'm just asking a question to get an answer.
And something else I would like to know. We talked about, Luann training Paul.
Mhm.
And, one of the things that's kind of been bugging me, I was here a couple of weeks ago and she was sitting in with, Alderman Trinka and Cody in a cemetery meeting. And that's not training Paul.
Okay, well, that's something we're going to discuss later on. We're gonna go into executive session later on to discuss.
Oh.
Okay. You got anything else?
It's in your hand.
I can speak on that, if you wouldn't mind, on that last topic,
You
for a
already,
half second.
you already had your chance out there.
All right, that's fine.
Everything, hang on. Okay, Pat.
I've got one, this happened to come up while I was gone, okay, and I didn't run across it until 4 o'clock, 5 o'clock tonight. I've given everybody a little memo of what we've got, from Bob Holman, who is with the, Methodist Church. And, he's asking us, if there could be, painted crosswalk, there to service the Methodist Church.
Was he referring from his house as he was directly across from the church?
Yes, there's really, you've got the stop signs, okay, but when they come up, they don't have to stop. And he's looking for just painted bricks where they have a sign, so they can walk across the church.
What?
So I didn't have time enough to, catch you.
Cody, can you address that later on, under street now? Okay. Okay, anybody else? Any other all the present? Okay. Move on to plan commission report.
Right. Try to keep it brief. By the way, on the UCC, I think right now they are a certified Red Cross facility.
Yeah, that's what she told
But
me.
yeah, and I don't think it'll be a problem, but
And she said the, library was too.
really? Well, there was a bomb threat many years, maybe 15 years ago, and all the kids came up to the church during school, so. But it is time to dust that off and figure it out. So the Plan Commission had 4 things. I'll go over them, and then if there's questions, I don't know if you want me, if you
Why
want to.
don't you just go one at a time?
Yeah, and-
Then we'll vote on it.
You want to vote on one at a time?
Yeah, that's
Okay,
okay.
perfect. Yeah,
Okay.
I didn't know how you wanted to do it. So the first one is kind of a revisit of something we addressed 2 years ago. And that's the old Cedars restaurant property that was torn down. So as you may recall or may not, Anthony Moore's company still owns it. The potential acquirer is here tonight. But the plan hasn't really changed that much, but the city, there's parking problems uptown, right? So it doesn't matter what the use of that facility is, there's gonna be parking problems. But what was voted on, to my knowledge, was allowing the 4, I think there's 5 now, but it would be as 4 parking spots off the alley be assigned to that property, along with 7 spots that they can put on the facility itself with the easement from the parking. So that was approved, okay? Now, so this is kind of gonna get some lawyer, and I'm not a lawyer, I pretend to be sometimes. But the nuance here, this was a special use permit, but the reason for the special use permit was the use of the property. It's in the historic district, right? So it has to go before the planning commission and get the permit. It's got ground, the proposed use is retail in the front, but the rest of it to be used for apartments. Okay, so the apartments in there, that's not necessarily, there are obviously housing everywhere in the historic district, right? It kind of says on the second floor, that's okay, but go look, it's everywhere, okay? And our C2 historic district requires it to go to the plan commission to get the plan approved. So we are recommending approval. It was 6-1, and really the dissension was maybe a little bit around the Mermaid House on the other side. But the crowd was very supportive. There wasn't any arguing about it, but this is a problem property that we've had for many years. It's still sitting vacant. It looks great, right? So, but it needs to be used. And this is a proposed use. So the way that the parking ordinance that we have that's separate from the historic district would require an additional couple parking spots, okay? But if this was used for, say, a restaurant, 4,000 square foot restaurant, you'd need more parking than that, okay? And it's a problem up here everywhere. And so we kind of looked at it from a practical standpoint. It's in the spirit of the historic district. It certainly was renovated in the spirit of the historic district. And so we believe that the special use permit, again, is for the use of it. The parking has already been resolved, okay? In our minds, those were already assigned to that property permanent, okay? I think it was 2 years ago, and I don't know if that was an ordinance or what it was, because it was, we recommended it, but we didn't really have authority to, so the council had to act on that because it was city property. So that went through as far as I know, it went through all the right channels, because that was the understanding by the current owner, that it would be part of that property to keep off street. Now, for the retail side of this business, you would use the street anyway, right? The Cedars use the street. So anyway, that's kind of in a nutshell, what we're approving here, what we're recommending you approve is the Live With Us LLC's plan to
do the final renovation as apartments with retail in the front and move forward.
I'll just go ahead and read number one then, Brent.
Yeah.
I need a motion on this afterward. Recommend the approval of site plan at 108 East St. Louis Street in the C2 Historic District for the mixed use of apartments and a retail storefront, including a variance on the parking requirements for that address. Applicant was Live With Us LLC, building currently owned by Papa John's Clubhouse LLC. This was the site of the old Cedars Restaurant Annex building recently renovated. So I need a motion to approve that.
I do want to clarify, though, that I don't think it would be healthy to approve it all as a special use and then have the parking come up later. Yeah, let's say 10 years from now, life changes, right? So somebody else buys it and wants to do something else, and now they get stopped for the same thing that we're doing here. And so that's why I kind of separated the two, but I don't know what the right legal way to do it. But the parking is meant to be permanent. Those 4 spots would be assigned to that property, no matter what the use is. Okay,
Right.
Okay, so I'm the party,
Yeah.
one of the party involved with buying this. I do not want a special use. And the reason I do not want a special use is because in the state of Illinois, the way I understand is special use permits do not transfer. So therefore, if something were to come along where I had to unload it, maybe I get cancer or family issue, or whatever it is, I don't intend on selling it. But if something does come up, I don't want the buyer to have to come do exactly what I've been doing for the last 3 months. And then for you guys to say no, and now there's a building sitting in town, and I'm not saying it's gonna happen, but it's possible that you guys could reject it. And then there's apartments sitting in there and you're not gonna approve them to have it under the new ownership. So I do not want a special use. I want it to be a variance at the very least.
so that's why I was getting into the lawyer part, because there's a permanent aspect to it that was kind of already approved. But it may not say that in the variant, in that original approval for the property.
Well, the easement's gonna go through, like that part, I'm not that worried about. I'm worried about the use of the buildings.
Oh, yeah, well,
Like I said, I don't foresee it being a problem, but the way it is written on paper and everything, it could be a problem. And I've already dealt with one of those issues on another property here in town, and I'm not going through
okay,
that.
so I was more concerned, I hadn't really talked to Justin, but I was really more concerned with the parking being taken away from it, you know.
Oh, the extra floor?
Yeah,
Well, I do
yeah,
appreciate that.
Yeah,
too.
that's what I was worried about.
But it needs to be a permanent thing. It cannot be like, oh, we're just gonna do it, for you right now, because that stuff doesn't fly later in life.
The consistency part is if you go down the historic district, you know, there are apartments on the first floor, okay? Typically, they're above the storefront, but we've allowed it and the ordinance doesn't really say yes or no. It's sort of, I think, an accepted practice, and I think that's probably what he's worried about, which would mean that maybe we need to clarify the ordinance itself, which would then fix the problem.
The ordinance in the books is that commercial property in a historic shopping district must have retail
Right.
on the first floor. Doesn't say it can be an apartment. So anybody who has an apartment is violating the ordinance as it reads, because it says retail on the first floor. I'll get to you. And then the other piece of this is if we're talking a variance now and different language, it's different process. This is gonna take another couple of weeks.
Well, then I would suggest that we go back to we have a hearing to change the C2 to clarify it.
Right.
It's sort of like some of the stuff that's there now with signs and other things that nobody has a problem with, but it's in violation, right?
Right.
And we've had this discussion on the plan commission, you're either gonna have it and follow it or change it,
Right.
right?
And the apartments on the first floor, or retail on the first floor, is encouraging retail in this district, which is what we need more than residents on the first floor. And I only know of 1 or 2 in this block, a couple blocks here that violate that. So that's one problem. The second issue is the variance is permanent.
No, well, and I was worried about the parking, because if that got zapped away from that property.
Well, the parking we could make we could do the variance, but we have to come back now with a request for a variance and the language for that, for the parking. We could do the parking as a variance. You know, I have a variance on my house because it's too close to the street. Now, I can't have for that in a way. So I know the variances are permanent, but the question about the special use permit, right now, I would make a motion that we approve it right now, to at least get that part approved, and then deal with the variance later.
Well, I would rather have a hearing on the ordinance itself,
Okay,
because we amend that all the time. We had a church, it wasn't in it wasn't in a permitted use, so we had to add it. You know, it's,
you're adding you want us to add a permitted use on fireworks, for example, after we went through a whole process a few years ago to get.
well, the law changed, but we'll talk
But
about
that's because of
that.
state law. change.
Right.
Yeah, that's the reason for that. We were in violation of state law.
So I have a couple of things to combat if you're done. Is that all right?
Go
Well,
ahead.
not combat, but you gotta be rude about it. But first off, if you read the ordinance, it does not say anything about a building that doesn't have a second floor. It only states that if it has a second floor, then the residence needs to be upstairs and the lower level needs to be retail. It does not state, so you can like be upset with that, but that's how it reads. I've read it. And second off, the thing of trying to pass this, it doesn't do me any good, because if you do pass this as a special use today, you can't put my name on it. I don't own the property right now. I will not own the property if it doesn't get passed, or we, I should say. So I don't know how you're gonna do a special use today and then come back later and be like, oh, you're just gonna pass this along. No, I'm gonna have to come back up here and do the same process again. And pay another amount of money. in
But
order
the
to do
current
that.
owner is on it was a dual request, really. They're on there. As we've done that before. I mean, they're listed on there.
But like, I'm telling you that like, and your attorney's here, and I don't know if he'll speak right now, because he probably wants to do some due diligence on it. But the way I understand state law in Illinois, that is not transferable. So if you say the word special use, that is not transferable. That is to you and to you only.
That's correct. We don't have to argue that point.
So
Special
chief, for
uses
us.
are for the life of the owner of that property. That's a given.
So that doesn't mean, I will sign no paper like to purchase the building to do the improvements under those, and it's nothing against anybody, it's just I'm not gonna put myself in that position.
So the ordinance that you're talking about, it's actually section 36-272, it's number
Sounds right.
23. It says dwelling units and apartments are permitted, provided a business occupies the ground floor. That's exactly what it
That's what
says.
we're requesting. Yeah, it's gonna be on ground.
It's gonna be ground floor,
Right.
business in the front, apartments in the back.
So
Right.
So it would seem to comply in the spirit, right?
It does.
Yes.
That part of it applies, right? I agree with you.
So as long as the parking can't be taken away, then maybe we've already got what we need.
We just need to get variance language and
Variance for what, though?
for the parking,
Oh,
so it doesn't get taken away.
I thought that was done.
It's already,
That's already
it's already done and taken care of.
Well, the easement part is.
Yeah.
But that's an easement.
Okay.
That permits you to use public land.
I know what it needs.
That's what that is. That doesn't say, the easement doesn't automatically say you have it permanently for parking. What the easement says is you have an easement on that property. I believe I'm correct on that.
I thought the new administration was hoping to make it easier.
So I was, well, I have the floor, then I would echo what they're saying, though. We need to come up with a process as a city. I've been on this plan commission off and on for the last 35 years, and it's been effed up since I've been on the plan commission. It's better than it was, trust me. It's a lot better. But there is no one person to go to. Many cities have, an official, a paid employee, and I know we can't afford that. But there's not one, you go and you get different answers,
I
right?
agree, that's.
And so, and you are very good at language and all of that stuff, and that's great, but we don't hear it till we get to the meeting. And we don't have that at the plan commission, kind of opining, and I don't know what the answer to that is. But it's not always the city clerk either, okay? So, I mean, because sometimes you need a building official, someone who knows the ICC code. You never know what comes up, so we need to work on that, okay? Because it is very, it's disruptive to, you should be able to come in and within 30 days, figure out if you can do what you want to do or not.
When the alley was paved. And the party before that is in charge of the building now came forward and asked about the parking. The city was in agreement, and we paved the rest of that alley in agreement that they paid for the parking places. On our side, so it wasn't out of city pockets, and those parking spaces were dedicated to that address. Because originally, before they tore down the Cedars Restaurant, they were gonna put it towards that address. And the legal side was, is you're gonna put it on a building that's getting tore down. Kind of silly, so. It was talked about in the past, before it was paved, and we saved about 15,000 out of our pocket for paving. They did our portion of the alley, they put the parking spots in, they paid for everything on it, it came out of their pocket. And in return, those parking spots went to the building there, so that's already.
So,
Thank you. That's good. I understand exactly what you're saying, and you are correct. The difference is that the prospective new owner needs additional specialized parking that's gonna be on the easement. That parking is still gonna be there, but that's what they're asking for, the special parking. And that easement is gonna need a variance to allow it to be used as permanent parking.
No, that's already gotten passed. That easement's already been passed in council. I'm not worried about
The
that.
easement is
separate part.
bad, but the variance for the parking, that.
I don't need a
We're not
variance for
worried
the
about
parking.
that.
I'm not worried about that.
We just want to,
He's saying we
what our
need
plan
number
is
of
to go
spots.
through, that's all we need.
For the
We want
number of
variance
spots
for
overall,
that.
yeah. I need approval for the variance for the amount of parking for what I'm trying to do with the building. I need it as a package deal to be passed. That's what we need. So I would like my plan passed, and I would like the plan to be passed, knowing how many parking spots I have available.
So you have what, 11 spots? Is that what, and how many, and so when I was trying to do the math on this, it was that you have 11 spots.
There's
But
4
you
spots
need-
that are there, or there's 5 spots there now, currently. We are going to get rid of one because that's where that easement is gonna go.
Okay.
And then that's a handicap spot. So we are gonna put a handicap up farthest towards Highway 50.
Okay.
And then there will be 7 spots after that. So there's 8 total, 1 handicap. And so there will be still 4 spots on that other side that are currently there. So you have a total of 11 plus the handicap.
Are they saying you need? Well,
Based off of ordinance, I need more, yes.
On modern, if you built a brand new building, you would need more parking.
Based on the
But you
international
can't-
building
you
code
can't
that
Get
we
more
use.
parking with the historic building. And none of these, there's like maybe 1 or 2 that meet the
And
requirements
that's,
up now.
and that's what you're asking for tonight?
Yeah.
Yes.
So if you want, we can get into it. I walk this Brick Street and I got a whole list of all the addresses up here and I go through how many apartments they have, how many storefronts they have and how many parking spots they have. But I'm not gonna name any businesses by name because I by no imagination want to throw anybody under the bus, but City Hall is one of them. Y'all don't have enough parking up here based off your codes, based off your square footage, how many employees you have. And now, especially now the street department's up here and your ambulance department's up here, that parking lot is not in compliance. So. And then you throw the library in, it's the same building, 2 separate addresses, same building, though, there's got no parking. It's not even close. Y'all need 21 spots up here, you don't have 21 spots.
13.
And I could go on, but like I said, I'm not gonna go up and down the street, I'll say 1 because, it's empty, you got 1 building up here that's right across the street here, it literally has 0. 0. Not a 1. You wanna know why it's sitting there like it is? People don't wanna deal with this. And I'm not saying there's other reasons, we all know what that other reason is, but I'm not gonna say it, because I have no qualms against the man.
So Luke, what do you think? You think we could table the recommendation as written?
I'm gonna be honest with you guys, I don't have time to table stuff on a personal, as a live with us. And
We're a contingent.
we are
on buying
contingent
property.
and I'm
We're stuck
running
at
this,
date.
I'm running.
If it doesn't pass, then we can't.
Okay. You can talk.
If we can't pass today, then our contingency for our date to finalize buying the building, it will miss our date and we'll have to postpone the whole thing.
Since I put in this offer, I put in an offer with a 3.5 month contingency, and I have not lacked on, I've been at every first meeting in order as I could come to these. And so I'm doing my due diligence and I am going as fast as I can, and I'm trying to follow the right things and cross your T's, dot your I's with you guys. But like, this is my last day, you know what I mean? Like, if I don't, like, you guys are gonna be looking at a building that nobody's gonna buy. There's just the facts of life, unless you wanna make something happen, like, you got lucky with the building. I know that you got some new people on council since I said my last spiel, but you have a guy that has a lot of money that decided to fix up a building and it was falling down. It was a year, maybe 2 away from literally crumbling upon itself. It has a new roof and it has been tuck pointed. The moment that that roof is gone, it's over. Like, you got, it's not happening again. So if it gets storm damage or whatever else, the life of that roof just went down. So right now, at best, you guys are looking at 35, 40 years max, but we know where we live. You're gonna get hail, you're gonna get little dings on it. Life of that roof just went down. And so the moment that first leak happens, it's over. You guys might as well just get a bulldozer in here and bulldoze it down. And if that's what you want, that's how you vote. But that's the facts of life. No matter what you do with that building, like he said, it's 4,000 square feet. Based off your ordinances, not a dang thing can go in there for parking.
Let's prove it.
Yeah.
And another thing I'd just like to add too is, I mean, here's another gentleman that is willing to put his time and money and effort into this town that, I mean, Lord knows we need it. I mean, I'm not saying like we should just jump on everything, but what they're proposing, I feel like is maybe a necessary thing. There's still gonna be the storefront. They're still gonna, you know, abide by everything else that they're going by. So, and what we got going on with the Creekside stuff, I mean, there's just a lot going on, and I don't feel like a lot of people are gonna be wanting to, put their time and effort into this town, and we continue to hassle people and push people away, and,
They already don't want to.
yeah.
Hey, George.
True.
Yeah, I was gonna suggest that, I'll move approval of this. And because we still have to go through the passing the actual ordinance on the, special use, but change it from allow it to make the parking area a variance so that it's permanent. You don't have to worry about that coming back again. And approve it, as the project as it's presented, but the parking area that is on the, is mostly on the easement, it would be a variance to allow.
Okay, I'm just gonna speak on that because it's not totally accurate. So I'm gonna let you know, I was in contact with the previous attorney and I needed to get a plot plan of it, and that was gonna be the extent of it pretty much. But I am not gonna go get that plot plan and done and drawn and changed and all that stuff when I don't own the property, and I'm not gonna own the property unless this gets passed. So I don't believe that I need a variance for that parking, because once the easement goes to that property, because it's not to me, it's to the property, I don't need it. It goes with that property. The variance is whatever. The parking is actually gonna take place on our property. It is not gonna take place on this easement. The easement is literally access. It is not to be used as a permanent like parking lot for the building. It's like a driveway that's like a shared lane, or when you go out in the country and you gotta drive through a farmer's field in order to get to your house. That's all this easement is. So once that easement is a legal document and it's been done, it's over, and the council already approved that, so we're not going backwards on that.
Yeah, this is not an official engineering plot, but it is to scale, and it was part of the discussion.
Yeah.
So,
So are you, to make sure I understand.
Sure.
The variance that you're wanting is on the number of spots.
So, yeah, because I technically don't have enough numbers for what I wanna do. So I need the building, what I wanna use the building for passed, along with the number of parking spots that I'm proposing based on the map. That's what I need, all package deal, not one, not the other, all.
my logical brain we approved the site plan, right? Just like a subdivision, we've just approved the site plan. I'm just concerned about the permanency, you know, if special use permit's not permanent, then how do we make that permanent? Because you're gonna need it, again, if it's a restaurant 20 years from now,
So,
you're
yeah,
gonna need it.
my concern is that the petition that was filed was for a special use permit on the parking spots. Now, the board could request to approve it as a variance on the numbers. In which case, the ordinance coming up at the next meeting would be, I would suggest that ordinance would approve the plan, would grant the special use, just to clarify on the mixed use of it, so that then the planning commission can take up clarifying our code on that mixed use kind of a thing, because once that's cleaned up, the special use part of it becomes a moot point. And then it would also grant a variance on that property for 7 plus the handicap.
Alright, so I'm gonna use this as a segue into what I wanted to say earlier now, because I totally understand your point. You're here, you're new, or back new, however you wanna look at it. But the problem lies in this position right here. So the city clerk, I don't know who the hell it is right now, to be honest with you guys, because if anybody read the agenda for tonight, it didn't have this man's name on it. So he also, and I don't know, you can call me ignorant, that's fine, but city clerk, in my opinion, I don't believe they should be writing recommendations and sending them out to the council, posting them for the city to read. If they want to come behind this side of it and they want to speak it as a citizen, I'm all for it. But to put it on a city document, I don't feel like I don't feel like that's their job. I don't know. I might be wrong, but that's how I feel.
You're right.
So I feel like when that came out today, that was wrong. And it said city clerk of the city of Lebanon on there, and it had Luann's name on there today. Today is what, 12? So we're 12 days into a new campaign. She's not writing agendas. She's still here every day behind the desk. I don't know what the heck we're doing with that. So,
Hey, Justin,
and I know.
That's one of the things that'll be discussed.
I know, I understand that, but I have lots of frustrations with the prior one. And so I used it as a segue because I told her that about 15 times when I came in here and filled out that stuff, and she writes what she wants and goes to the paper. I have no control on what goes to the paper. You know what I'm saying? So I came up here and I said something to her and it'll be all right. And you get that stuff all the time. But no, it's not gonna be all right because now, we're at a meeting today. Now, does it have to go back to plan then? Once that happens, now I gotta go get it passed because it's changing a little bit because the word has changed. So now I gotta go to another plan, and then that plan, I gotta go to the thing. So now I'm looking at another, 6 weeks, 5-6 weeks, because that only meets once a month. And then I gotta wait a whole week. If it's too close together, then that doesn't work. So if they meet on a Thursday and the very next Monday, the council has a meeting, that doesn't work, because now I gotta wait a whole nother week or 2 weeks in order to get to it.
You're 100% right.
So it's 6 weeks. I don't know where y'all get money from, but I don't have that. All right, I don't. So I don't have 6 weeks to sit here and hold my own self.
And to clarify, what I was suggesting. Is
3.5 months.
Yeah. Is that the motion tonight could be for approve the site plan, the special use on the mixed plus the variance. Approve it, the recommendation of it being a variance on the parking numbers. Then I put the ordinance together. You vote on it next week. This is done in 2 weeks. I would be okay with that.
Yeah, I mean,
That's doable.
Yeah, I mean, I understand that.
I just don't wanna wait another 2 months because we miss our deadline. Well, let's vote on this, let's plan a dog and pony show already, geez.
I'll make a motion. Get it official. That we approve the site plan. We approve the variance on the parking places. And when the documents are prepared, it's all the way it needs to be so that the prospective buyer can buy the property and move forward with their plan.
I second that.
Yeah.
Any discussion? Okay, roll call, please.
Hang on.
I want to confirm it's gonna go with the property though.
Right, it goes with the property, the variance does, special use
Yeah.
does.
Okay, roll call please.
Farrell,
Yes,
Marcinkowski,
Yes.
Smith,
Yes.
Stevenson, Washington,
Yes.
Belkey,
Yes.
Bennett,
Absolutely, yes.
and Cornish, sorry.
Yes.
Is that it?
Yep.
Okay, now
Appreciate
we'll
your
move on
time.
to number 2.
This one won't take long. So this is a renewal of a special use permit that actually expired. And I'll explain why, but at 218 North Herman, if you're a longtime citizen, you remember Roger Baum was kind of down there. He had cows on it for years, never got, it was just, it's a farm, agriculture. But it is on the edge of, it is in the community. So the property owner in 2019 came and wanted a special use permit for, so some farm animals in a little corral. Presently, there aren't any, but we put a restriction for 3 years because we were a little bit hesitant about there were goats or whatever. But so they were to come back. They didn't come back. It expired. There's no violation, but they just want to renew it basically. And I would, since it's a special use permit, I would renew it permanently as long as she owns the property. So that's the 218.
Okay. Need a motion to recommend the approval and reissuance of special use permit for Amy Pop for agricultural use of the property at 218 North Herman, so long as she owns and resides at the property. Original special use permit expired 2023.
And there's an ordinance that, it was 1478, I think, that was represented that original, so it can just.
I'll move that.
Second.
Second. Okay, any discussion? Okay, roll call please.
Marcinkowski,
Yes.
Smith,
Yes.
Stevenson.
Yeah.
Washington,
Yes.
Belkey,
Yes.
Bennett,
Yes, sir.
Cornish,
Yes.
Farrell.
Yes,
Okay, we'll move on to number 3.
All right, so I'm right-handed, but I'll look left this time. I tend to look right and not left. Sorry about that. This one's really easy. Certificate of appropriateness for a sign in the historic district. It's required in our ordinance. It's perfectly in compliance. I think you should have gotten a picture of it, but if not, it's within our sign ordinance and within the historic district, so we're just recommending approval of the sign.
that's a picture
Okay.
there.
That is in Brent?
Yep.
Okay, I need a motion to recommend the approval of the certificate of appropriateness for sign in C2 Historic District at 120 West St. Louis Street, which complies with the sign ordinance.
So moved.
Okay.
I'll second.
Okay, any discussion? Okay, roll call please.
Smith,
Yes.
Stevenson.
Yeah.
Washington,
Yes.
Belkey,
Yes.
Bennett,
Yes. Yeah.
Cornish,
Yes.
Farrell.
Yes,
Okay, number 4 then, Brent.
Okay, this item, we decided to, vote on it. The state law changed on fireworks. And so it's not a permitted use. So we discussed it. Obviously, we don't want it in residential district. We don't want it in the historic district, but in the C1 historic, or in the C1 regular commercial district, we think it should be added as a special use. So that's the recommendation.
Okay, that's it.
And it's all because the state law changed.
Okay, need a motion to recommend fireworks sales to be added to the list of special uses in the C1 commercial district. Now that these sales have been permitted in the state of Illinois.
Second. Motion.
So, have a second?
I'll second.
Have a second? Okay, any discussion? Roll call please.
Stevenson.
Yeah.
Washington,
Yes.
Belkey,
Yes.
Bennett,
Yes.
Cornish,
Yes.
Farrell?
Yes.
Marcinkowski?
Yes.
Smith?
Maybe it's Smith.
No.
No.
Smith, sorry.
Abstain. Abstain.
Yep, okay, move on to number 5 then.
All right, and this is not to rush anything. It may seem like it came up, but we've been talking about accessory use building heights for a while on the plan commission. And if you look, it's probably probably the number one item that the zoning board has to talk about all the time. And if you always have to talk about something, it's probably an indication that it ought to be visited, right? So we had a hearing, nothing but support. This is on accessory use buildings, so that would be a garage, a shed on your property, which we do allow in the residential district. But there's a height restriction, it's just a flat 15 feet. Okay, so that's been the variance most of the time. Now, we're not recommending anything on setbacks or anything like that. Those are on a case by case. But on building height, it's ridiculous to have a hearing every time you have one. So we surveyed some communities around the area. And there's various iterations of this, but our restriction's 15 feet, okay? Period. So the Fairview, O'Fallon, Shiloh, they all have varying degrees, but up to 30 feet in some. Shiloh actually had the most nuanced one. If you're in the R1, 2, or 3, or SR1, 2, or 3 for us, the restriction was 25 feet or the height of the primary structure. So if you have a 3-story house, you can build it up to 25 feet. If you have a smaller house, then you're limited to that height. That seems to be a reasonable solution. We're recommending 25 feet. And if you think about it, and this wouldn't change anything. If you're in a subdivision that has its own restrictions, doesn't matter what the ordinance says, your covenant would dictate that. But in this case, we wouldn't want a ranch house with a 25-foot, in a ranch house neighborhood, 25-foot, it should have to get a variance and be discussed by the public. But if not, if you have a 25-foot house, we feel like as long as it meets all the other requirements that we should modify that. Now, that needs to go to the ordinance committee.
Right.
We had the hearing recommendation, that's all we can do, so.
So you're asking the ordinance committee to discuss
Yes.
and recommend.
Yeah.
You don't approve it.
Right.
We recommend it for approval. So.
And I think they have a hearing tomorrow night, so it doesn't change that.
Zoning board.
The zoning board does, yeah. So, but yeah, that would be our and you don't need to vote on that, you can just
No,
take
that's
it to the
just-
ordinance
yeah,
committee.
I'll ask that to be put on the agenda for the June meeting.
So no vote on this? So
Nope,
that-
nope.
that-
Yep, that's it. Wait till I leave to call me an idiot.
You got leave now, so we can tell you. Okay, that's it. Move on to committee reports. Streets and alleys.
Nothing, meeting the second at 6:30.
Okay, finance, Mike.
Nothing, guess we're set to meet a week from tonight.
Okay, ordinance, George.
On week, June 2nd, we'll be talking about building height and people and things.
Okay. Water sewer, Pat. Nothing. Cemetery, RJ.
I have nothing. Meet on June 2nd.
Okay, health and safety, Ms. Washington.
Me, on the 19th.
Okay, public property.
I have nothing. I will meet June 2nd, 2025 at 6:30 p.m.
Okay, thank you. On personnel, Mr. Bennett.
Yes, sir, we have one thing for this evening. Yes.
You can read that, but we're gonna do that in section section. Yeah, okay.
Resolution, Wanda, Miss Luann Over.
Okay,
We'll have another meeting, May 19th, 2025 at 6:30 p.m.
okay. Paul, work?
We've got and this might be with the treasurer also, we talked about the grocery tax. Jessica, if you want to talk about the 1% that the state took away and tell the audience what we're gonna do or look at doing.
Yeah, I can only share very basics. I found out today that the state has taken away the grocery tax. And so the city was receiving that tax money from the state. With them doing away with it, we have the option to implement a city tax. Otherwise, we will take a 1% reduction in our overall revenue to the city. So we are going to, I just got handed this today, so we'll be looking into it and coming forward with you guys to try and see if we want to pass a city tax to replace that state tax on our grocery revenue.
We've actually been discussing that in ordinance before you pay. And it's something that we have on our eye and our eyesight to get passed before August. Because it's gotta be before August, so that's effective the 1st of January. But yeah, that's a no-brainer. It's not a new tax, it's a replacement.
It comes into our general revenue. Yeah, I believe this goes,
It just goes generally.
yeah, I'm pretty sure that one goes general.
Okay, Jess, you got anything for the treasurer?
I have a couple things, so I'll start with a couple things I have that's not on here, and then I'll do the couple that are on the agenda. I have been going through with a fine tooth comb on our budget and trying to understand the overall finances. I have been away from them for a couple of years, so there's new expenses, other expenses that we have improved on since I had sat back here. As an alderman, I am going to ask that, I've already spoken to each of the supervisors and they know this, but the accounts are extremely low until we start having our revenues come in from taxes in June. Those usually start coming the 1st of June, later in June for property taxes, things like that. The sales tax or income tax, I believe that we start getting. So any extra spending, with the exception, I believe there's one thing that's on the agenda tonight with Chief that we've already discussed a little bit. But anything extra, we really need to minimize it and only do what needs to be done right now until we have the money come in. Even if it's a budgeted item, I've asked the supervisors to not bring it forward until we have it, because even if it's budgeted, that doesn't mean the money's in the account. And right now, there's no money in the accounts. So that is one thing that came up. The other thing that I kind of want to discuss that I kind of want some opinion on, because some people disagree with me. We have a safety deposit box at the bank. Unless somebody knows who has the key, at some point, a key has gone missing for it. There is a checks and balances system at the bank, so whoever has it can't walk in there and just open it right now. But I find it as a huge risk to the city and an issue, and so I would like to get it rekeyed so that we know, right now at the bank, they know us all, they're not gonna just let anybody in there, but I don't want Joe Schmo in 5 years that's working down there not know somebody and then walk in and have this magic key and it exposed the city to a risk of, we have the safety box for a reason. So unless somebody is aware of who was issued the key, it is lost. So I would like to have it rekeyed. It's gonna cost us $200 to do that. I am talking to the bank to see if they will waive that for us. But there is an expense to the bank to do it, because they're gonna have to re-drill it and everything. But I will be having that done this week unless somebody comes up to me at the end of the meeting and says that they know where the key is. I really feel like it's a safety concern that we need to get addressed as soon as possible.
Does the bank not log who goes in and out of the boxes?
They do, and I will let you guys know, I did pull all records. I hate to share this, but I'm going to. No one has been in that box, in the previous term. So if a key was issued at all, they did not go. I pulled all the records of every person that's been in there. There's been no one in it since April of 2022. So the records and stuff that are in there aren't current. But if we're gonna continue paying for the box, and then I would like to continue utilizing it and putting processes back in place that we had, then I wanna make sure that it's safe before I do that.
Who's gonna have the key once it's rekeyed?
So it used to be given to the treasurer and then I believe to the clerk. I would actually like to recommend that we have a system here that it's kept at City Hall and you check that key out. In my opinion, if the bank's open for me to go to the box, City Hall's open. So I don't want to have the key on my key ring. I'd rather come up here and sign it out with a witness with like the clerk or somebody behind that counter. They know I have it. I go do whatever business I need and I bring it back and it's signed off that I returned it. I personally am recommending that would probably be the smarter option instead of letting it go out. I don't want it on my key ring.
If it hasn't been used in 3 years, is there a real need for it?
So I did do some research on that, because I was curious on that as well. When we have our CDs and things like that, typically the bank gives us a copy of that certificate, and if something were to happen, let's say there's a fire up here at City Hall, there are certain documents then I think it's safe that we would have a copy here and a copy at the box. So we have two locations to where those real deeds to properties, titles of vehicle, things like that, I think make more sense to keep there. Even if we have a fireproof box here, usually they're only rated for like 90 minutes, 2 hours, something like that. If we had a big fire, I would want to know that we have our important documents backed up somewhere. I did talk to Michelle a little bit. She recommended possibly looking at a digital way of scanning in those and saving them to our server as a copy. You do have the risk though, that if you are putting into a server, that means that if our server were to get hacked, those important documents are then, hopefully it wouldn't, but just kind of looking at all different avenues. That's why it costs us $30 a year is what it costs us to keep it. So as long as we're responsible with the keys going forward, it really is a minimal expense.
And I want to add something. When you said a check-in, that's between the treasurer and the clerk, not anybody else.
Yeah,
So whoever checks in, it's gonna be sort of like when we go there and use the key, they document that we've been there. So
Yeah.
that'll be either myself or Jessica. Typically, I like both of us because of witnesses. That would be the best. And we definitely need a box, $250 or whatever it is to get it rekeyed or it's well worth it because it's. If something original burns, it's gone. So we need that.
there is a sheet at the bank too that says who's permitted to go into it, and it's only the couple people that it's listed on there. So the bank should not allow somebody to go in there that is not on that list, that does not have the key. So there are some extra security measures. Anybody have any other questions on that?
Jessica, can I make a suggestion?
Yes, sir.
That once we get into it and we get this set up, we also keep an inventory here of what is in the box. So that when one of you goes in and adds or takes something out. we'll have a
Yes.
Ledger of what activity has been done with the box.
Yes, I did start to do that the other day when I was going through it and realized I was gonna need much more time. Some of the documents, you can't even unfold them because the creases just tear because they're old. And so, I will take some time and get that inventory and have that in there. I do agree with you. Thank you.
Is there any way you can get those torn documents reprinted?
I will probably look at a way at least of getting us a copy made of them and having a copy in there that's not as delicate as and have the original and a copy to be safe. That is one of the reasons that I was thinking I would probably go back since, the clerk and I are both the witnesses on it. I would like us both to go down there and probably take everything out, come up here, inventory it, make some copies and stuff, and then take it back down there together as witness on what's going in, just to be safe.
That what we got, Jess?
No,
No.
next things I have, so we had some CDs that were sitting, that came and matured on April 25th. Technically, the CDs I was told need to be voted on by council to make sure that we want to lock those back into a CD. Those we got at a rate of 4.25, and those are going, there's two of them that are gonna go into a 12-month CD at 4.25. And then I have, should I do them separately or together? Can I do them all together? Separately? Okay, so first, I just need to have approval to move this two CDs that matured on April 25th, 2024, to carry those over into a new 12-month term CD at a 4.25. And they were at a 4.5 before, but their advertised rate on that right now is 4%. So they did give us a 0.25% bump on
I
those.
got a question. If we have a liquidity issue, then we certainly don't need to have CDs, period. We can take it on a money market that rather than being tied up.
Yes, so I have been looking into that because we have some other ones that are coming up in October and some that come up early next year. These CDs in particular that we're talking about are our meter deposit CDs. So these are the ones that when people come in and put their deposit down on their water bill, it's the money that we have to be able to refund to them. So we can't spend it, but we keep a certain amount in the checking account for those. And then we usually put a chunk of them in the CDs because we can't touch that money, but then it's growing at a higher interest rate than what the CD is. So we keep a little bit in that fund. And then these CDs, we stagger them. I've got some at 12 months, some at 24 months.
That's all for
The 12 month or the 24?
12 and 24.
Yeah, the as far as the meter fund, that account is at the balance it's at now, we are, it would take a lot of people fleeing out of town. So hopefully we start making people happier and a whole bunch of people don't leave town at once, but, and we would be able to, even though it's in a city, if the city, if there was an emergency and that many people left that we needed to issue deposits back, we would be able to get it back. It's not like they wouldn't let us out of it. There would be a small penalty though.
Big fan.
On interest only.
Yeah, it's only on the interest. Did you have a question? Or was that something?
No, I'm sorry, and please forgive me if this is a silly question. You said that you were going through the box already, so you did get into it without the key?
We have one key. There's supposed to be two.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So you haven't really confused.
I think that's why they probably haven't worried about it, is because we've had a way to get into it. But I'm a little more paranoid than that, and that made me cringe a little bit that there's a key out there somewhere and I don't know who has it.
You know, the CDs, how much of those were?
So the first one is. All right, let me find the date, $6,662.19. And then the second one is $95,805.99.
I would move those two CDs at the, what did you say, 4.25?
4.25.
And those amounts, 6,095.
Need a second?
Can't hear you.
Second, what he said.
Oh, I can't hear you.
He moved to keep the CD.
You want to keep it at 24 months?
This
Oh,
one's at
one
12
was
months.
12. One's
Oh,
at
but he's
24.
both 12.
These are both 12.
Both
Those
12.
both 12,
1 year,
Yeah.
1 year.
1 year.
Anybody second? I'll second.
Yes,
Okay.
well, I had felt it for a second.
Okay, any discussion? Okay, roll call please.
Washington,
Yeah.
Belkey,
Yes.
Bennett,
Yes.
Cornish,
Yes.
Barrow,
Yes.
Marcinkowski,
Yes.
Smith,
Yes.
Stevenson.
Yeah.
Yep, and that was for both.
Okay,
All right, and then the next set is we have 3 CDs that came up for renewal, they matured on May 11th, so I have to have an answer to the bank tomorrow to get these. After meeting with them, they did offer some different interest rates. These we had in a 24-month CD prior. Those amounts are gonna be $19,746, $11,265, and $5,720. Those 3 all are maturing. They were maturing at 4%. To your point, these all are meter deposit CDs again. They offered me, we can keep them at a 24 months, so we would have the 2 renewing next year, and then these 3 would come up the following year. We can keep them at 24 months at 4%, or they offered me to do a 12%, I can put them at 4.5. I have been heavily doing some research. I'm sure you guys have noticed everything that's going on with the tariffs and everything. They are saying that they expect interest rates to come down this year, and early into next year. So since we have those others coming up next year and we have enough money in that fund in the account, I personally would recommend that we go ahead and lock in the 4% interest rate for 24 months, because next year, if we go to renew these, they're probably gonna be significantly lower at that time. But I am open to either one.
you wanna make a motion, George?
I'm still running the figures through my head.
Essentially, to make the same money you're gonna need it next year, the rates, if they're below 3.5%, then we would come out below what we will if we lock it in. If you lock it in the 12-month at 4.5% and they don't go below 3.5%, then you're still gonna make the same money or possibly better next year. But they are expecting the interest rates to come down in the next 12 months.
So we can lock them in for 24 months.
We can lock them in for 24 months at 4%.
I would do that.
Second,
Second.
okay, any discussion? Okay, roll call please.
Belkey,
Yes.
Bennett,
Yeah.
Cornish,
Yes.
Barrow,
Yes.
Marcinkowski,
Yes.
Smith,
Yes.
Stevenson.
Yes.
Washington. Yeah,
Okay.
one thing on that, how are we gonna identify those three CDs for my minutes? Are they all maturing 5/11?
Yep,
Okay.
I can give you the dollar amounts. Can you identify them by dollar amounts? Or I have an account number, but I think the account number will change. When I go to the bank tomorrow and get the paperwork and get the new account numbers, I can give you those.
And I do have the dollar amount that he says.
Yeah.
So,
I would suggest when we get those account numbers, that you give each of them.
or like escrow or.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that's what, they do have a nickname on their meter deposit. That's how I knew to figure out what that was.
Okay, Jess, we have two more, right?
No, I'm done.
Oh,
That's,
you're
those,
done?
all three were lumped into one, so
Okay,
I
Thank
am
you.
done talking.
Okay, now it's my turn again here. Discuss approve the resolution authorizing the execution of IDOT, utility permit application for Creekside upon signatures of a removed Dennis Falston, Chad Littleton earlier.
He designated.
Yeah, designated authorized representative.
I'll move approval of the resolution authorizing the execution of IDOT utility permit for Creekside on the recognition, the signature of the authorized representatives.
Second, third, fourth, and fifth.
Any discussion? No, okay, roll call.
Bennett.
Yes. Mayor, did you want?
Yeah, yeah, well, oh, yeah, you want to, yeah, you want
me
to
to
do
go
this?
through, because you would ask the question, so as
Yeah.
part of this.
Okay.
It's probably easier for me to do this. So just to let everybody know what we're doing, what's going on here. So on April 30th, I reached out to Kevin Dawson, who's Creekside's attorney. Technically a day before I was appointed as your guys' attorney. Set up to talk to him. We started talking through. Mayor gave me the kind of what the board had thought about giving as far as contribution towards the project, towards the sewer project. The difficulty with that is the city, this city, any city cannot give public funds towards a purely private project. So part of what we started looking at is there a way to help with that? We looked at, the problem is this property is not in the business district, it's not in the TIF. We don't have the time to wait for the new TIF to come online for that, those kinds of things. There is a statute that allows for us to contribute towards sewer, water, sewer, certain utility things. If there's a possibility that it could be used for other properties in the future. The problem with this one is, as the permit says, it is a purely private sewer connection. Because of the size of it, to allow it to be bored rather than have to be dug out, all of those kinds of things. So what that left us with is coming up with what we call an economic incentive agreement, which basically the city is agreeing, expecting that there's going to be revenue, sales tax, those kinds of things that comes from this business going operational. So what we would do is contribute in advance what we expect to get back. Anyways, that's how we have to determine. However, per the statute, that's a very detailed kind of agreement. So Mr. Dawson and I were talking through, and earlier this week or early last week, he and I were going back and forth about, was there a way to at least get the IDOT permit submitted, because we don't know exactly how long IDOT may take to review it. So that this part of it can be moving forward while we're working through the details of that economic incentive agreement. So I went back and I looked at what Mr. McGinley was doing beforehand, and it looked to me like he was being very cautious on behalf of the city and asking for full indemnification from Creekside and things like that, which was the indemnification agreement that had come up in previous meetings. It was my understanding, made clear to me, that Creekside did not want a long-term indemnification, like something to where something happens 10, 15 years down the road, that it would come back on them. which I understood. So looking at the permit that had been, application that had been prepared by Pat Nedemeyer, I thought that I would bring it to the board, to say, we could approve this. Now, there is a risk of approving the permit as it's written, is that IDOT will not recognize that agreement that they're gonna be responsible for any damage in the short term. So we run the risk of something catastrophic happening in the future, which is bad for them, bad for us, bad for everybody kind of thing, but in that scenario, it would be this council's decision about how to proceed with recompense for that kind of issue. Obviously, hopefully, that is a very small risk, but it is not a zero risk. So in putting this to the board in this resolution's standpoint, the other thing that we realized is that when Mr. Nedemeyer put together the provision in the permit for signatures, it identified somebody who was not a member of Creekside LLC to sign on their behalf. So that's why the resolution is somewhat vague in that it says an authorized representative of Creekside, so that we can get that changed. And then the other part of that is that IDOT requires the 5-year bond. And after some discussion with Mr. Dawson, we thought rather than try to squeeze another line into that permit application of providing for that bond in the permit agreement, we would just include it in the resolution that they would provide the bond, and that upon providing proof of the bond, we could sign and execute the permit. Is basically just 2 conditions precedent. Basically, the representatives sign the permit and have the bond, and then it can be submitted to IDOT. My goal is still to have the economic incentive agreement hopefully done for the next meeting. But that way this process can get moved forward. And so we're not kind of sitting still. So that's long-winded answer to how we got to this and why I suggested to the mayor to present this resolution as it is, rather than trying to hash out either the indemnification agreement or the economic incentive agreement and let this sit there while we're trying to work those out, if that makes sense.
Does these permits, do you send them off to IDOT? Does their lawyer send them off to IDOT?
So
Does the
what-
mayor do it?
No, so what the permit, because it's a utility permit, technically our superintendent of water and sewer is required to sign off on it. So what the resolution does.
Well, she ain't here, so can he sign it? So we can get this going? So it should have started in January?
So what the resolution does is that upon Creekside and litigants signing their portion of it, then and providing the bond, then superintendent will sign it and it gets submitted. I talked to Mr. Dawson today, and they had some questions that went with the economic incentive agreement, that maybe they wanted an extra day or 2 or a week of me talking to Mr. Dawson before we finalize the actual permit. But by doing this way tonight, all it requires is those 2 things and it can be submitted. So it's done tonight, so we're not binding them tonight, but we're also allowing a path forward without having to wait till the next meeting. Because if we don't do anything, then nothing can be done until that next meeting.
That's what we've been doing since January, nothing. So let's vote. Is that what we're doing?
I'll make a motion that we move this forward.
Does that permit still has to be?
We just, they'll have to strike out the person.
The
that
person
they want. I'm not worried about that.
The
part.
authorized person will.
So I think there's been a motion and a second. So at this point, if there's no further discussion or questions for me, yes, you can move to the vote.
Okay. Roll call, please. If there's no discussion.
Bennett,
Yes.
Cornish,
Yes.
Farrell,
Yes,
Marcinkowski,
Yes.
Smith,
Yes.
Stevenson,
Yes.
Washington,
Yes.
Belton.
Yes.
Is that it?
Yes.
Okay,
Yes.
I do have one question, Mr. Whitty.
sure.
So, prior to this evening, and like with the last mayor, I'm sure you're all aware, the sewer superintendent says that she will absolutely not sign this permit in any way. So what happens if that happens?
I think she'll sign.
Okay, but if not,
It's like a
we have a
legit
plan?
question.
Okay,
Yeah.
well,
Yeah, you voted.
no, that's all up here. She wasn't gonna sign it. So, just making sure.
And Bethany, just be happy with what happened.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
I'm willing to be happy, so make sure she signs it.
I'm gonna remember that next week, all right?
Okay, we're gonna move on to number 2. Since we're talking about sewer. No,
Got it.
discuss approve the resolution for an employment agreement with David Roth as chief of police. Have a motion on that, so, okay. Second?
Yeah.
Yep, okay. Any discussion? Okay, roll call please.
Cornish.
Yes, employment agreement. with David Rogers.
Yeah. That's, hey, Amber, that should have been part of your,
Packet.
packet.
Yes. Yes, I said yes.
Yes, yes,
Okay.
yeah.
Farrell,
Yes.
I'm saying.
Marcinkowski,
Yes.
Smith,
Yeah, yes.
Stevenson,
Yeah.
Washington, Belkey,
Yes.
Bennett.
That's it?
Yep.
Okay, go to department heads. Okay, chief?
Chief.
Okay.
Well, first of all, thank you. Going to the vehicle for the DEA, I think would be appropriate to give a backstory to the name of the lady in government that probably don't know what the person says.
You can't hear.
Can you speak up? Can you speak up a little bit?
It's the first time in my life people have not heard me. Back in 2016 or 17, don't hold me to those dates, but I was able, after I got hired here, to get us in the Lebanon Police Department into what is called the DEA Task Force. Okay, there's a tremendous amount of benefits for us to be involved in this DEA Task Force. A lot of people just look at the finance aspect of it, which is huge, but there's many other aspects of it too. When you put somebody into the DEA Task Force as we have, it gives us access to all the other alphabet organizations through the networking. AFT, ATF, DEA, FBI, Marshals, all the above. And we've had them in this town in many occasions. You will never hear me talk about that in public because of the sensitivity of the cases we use them. And they have been here many times. That being said, a lot of people focus on the finances of it. It's huge because we get a percentage of the monies that are seized from the drug dealers. Okay. Since that time, in 16 or 17 was, I've been able to get us, the police department, to the 21st century by not utilizing taxpayer monies. Because we would not be in the position we are in as a police department. With the monies, as we all know, the city has financial issues. So we've been able to do that. Amongst others, get a lot of bad guys out of town too. Okay, so what I'm needing to do now is what goes along with the task force detective is about every 3 to 5 years, you got to replace their vehicle. I never tell you what it is in public. If you want to come and talk to me in private, that's fine. But public wise for officer safety reasons. But it is that time to replace the current vehicle that person is currently utilizing. So we'll pull that back and I'm asking permission to purchase a new one, 60,000 up to 60,000. That I can just write a check for and it's not using taxpayer money, period. So that's my request.
Have a second?
Second.
Okay, any discussion?
Mayor, and I
Sure.
just want to add one thing so that everybody understands it, Chief, is that DA task force money can only go into PD things. It can only be used for certain equipment and stuff for PD and things like that. So it can't, it's not like that money can come in and get pushed to something else. It has to keep.
That's under federal law. Yes.
Thanks, Luke. Okay, roll call please, no discussion.
Pharaoh,
Yes.
Marcinkowski,
Yes.
Smith,
Yes.
Stevenson. Washington,
Yes.
Belkey,
Yes.
Bennett,
Yes.
Cornish.
Yes.
That's it. Okay,
Thank you.
yeah, okay, Cody?
Good evening, Cody Streets Department. I just want to touch on what Mr. Stevenson was talking about earlier. We are moving from painting our sidewalks with aerosol cans that we have plentiful amounts of from previous administrations. We are going to move over to thermoplast. The reason why we're moving, getting away from the regular paint of sidewalk is, if you remember last year, I know some of your new faces to get you caught up. The city went in and painted the sidewalk, or even across IDOT Route 4, so that kids had a place to cross and people could recognize it as a crosswalk. If it did or didn't help, hopefully, in my mind, hopefully it did help. But the idea is it needs repainted again. We spent almost $3,000 to do 7 sidewalks. So we're looking at getting away from the paint. It just doesn't last. And on top of that, when you go by an IDOT intersection, a lot of people don't pay attention to the roads now. There's a glass bead that has to go in there. It's very expensive. This thermoplastic is expensive also, but is also supposed to, is also supposed to last 3 times longer. So just bear with us. We're going to do a due bid process on the city money, and that way we're going to go out and get a couple bids and resource from other entities as well, and hopefully get the bang for our buck and not have to redo sidewalks every 6 to 8 months. That also includes out by Mr. Bennett, yes. So it's actually a wide range, all the way from the high school going all the way up to the new road is ever added on by Janet and Ursula. There's a bunch of other spots in town too. We're actually looking at coordinating with the SRTS, which is your safe routes to schools, to make sure that kids that are walking to school have crosswalks to get across to on Herman and also on the east side of town. It's important to the city as we get our kids to school. That is the future of this administration at some point. And then after that, if you just, any questions?
I got a good question. The other day, I was pulling out on the Route 4, and there was a couple of kids, at that crosswalk trying to get across Route 4. And they were pressing the button, and it seemed to not ever light up or do anything for them. So I just ended up pulling my vehicle and blocking the road for them. We got out, and let them pass, because nobody was stopping for them.
Okay, yeah, we can look into it. Those are ours. For anybody listed at home or anybody else, if you get to that crosswalk, hit the button and it's not telling you to safely cross or else cross State Route 4, you don't see the indicators come on, let us know. They are older signs. We do have to eventually probably replace them. I don't know the age limit, but they're about 500-600 a piece. We can get them replaced. I think those are important signs to get back in working order. So we'll check them out tomorrow.
That it, Cody?
That's all I have. If you don't mind, I'm gonna take that fire call.
Okay, go ahead.
I'm sorry. As of right now, we're between battling the cemetery tall grass and keeping up with the grass in town and everywhere else. We are slowly but surely moving towards getting some potholes. We've put about 8.5 ton down. The weather's not really cooperating with us, and with these lower temperatures, Easy Street does not hold into the potholes as well. The warmer it is, the better that permeable surface sticks. So just bear with us. We are aware that there's a lot of potholes. We're working on it, I promise you. Any questions?
Is Penny back there?
No.
Okay, right now, nothing from water and sewer, and I know Mike's not back there, is he? Building inspection. Okay, we'll move on to unfinished business. Nothing? Okay, we're, move on to new business. Nothing? Okay, something's come up. I'm going to request that we go into executive session under ILCS or 5 ILCS 120, section 2C1 of the Open Meeting Act for the consideration of the appointment, compensation, discipline, performance, or dismissal of specific employees of the public body or legal counsel for the public body, including hearing testimony on a complaint lodged against an employee of the public body or against the legal counsel for the public body to determine its validity. There will be no vote after this executive session.
We going in the back? Should. Yeah.
Do you want to go back there or you want to stay out here? What's the else? Yeah, so everybody can leave, okay.
Thanks, man. Never mind. I didn't know if it's second. Sit down.
Amber, you want to say?
Yeah.